In this world, a rare power exists. It is called the auto skill, an incredible ability that automatically defends its user from any approaching enemy. Though it may seem like a simple power on the surface, its true value is only revealed in the midst of desperate life-or-death battles against terrifying monsters. This is the story of how a young, unmotivated man, who often collapsed onto his messy bed without a care in the world, suddenly came to possess this powerful weapon. His lazy days are about to end, as destiny prepares to throw him into a grand adventure alongside a cheerful elf and a mysterious, beautiful girl, cloaked in a nun's habit. In his cluttered room, among the empty mugs and bottles, a deep and tired yawn escapes him. He stretches lazily. Headphones hang around his neck. He feels no motivation to do anything at all. This is Satoru Higanbana, 26 years old, and without a job, he spends his days completely immersed in the escapism of online games, shutting out the real world. But this life of absolute laziness only began 2 weeks ago, born from a tragedy that shattered his will to try. He remembers his past life, seeing his own exhausted reflection with dark circles under his eyes, a stark reminder of his time working for a brutal IT company where overwork was the norm. In the office, he recalls a colleague complaining about missing the train yet again, but finds comfort knowing that the shared struggle with his friends made the pain bearable. He glances over at his friend Yamada, who looks utterly defeated as he stares blankly at his computer screen. A cold dread washes over Satoru. He sees it in his friend's eyes. Yamada has reached his breaking point, but with a critical deadline looming for the next morning, he forces himself to ignore his concern and focus on the project that must be finished. He tries to get his friend's attention, his voice soft with worry as he calls out Yamada's name. Sitting in the sterile, lonely office, Satoru tries to offer some encouragement, acknowledging how incredibly tough their situation has become for both of them. He turns to Yamada with a strained but hopeful smile, telling him that his presence is the only thing that gives him the strength to keep going. Satoru reminds him of their unique bond, how they are the last two people left who started at the company in the same year. With a surge of forced optimism, he proposes they push through this final project together and then celebrate with drinks, a small reward for their suffering. But Yamada doesn't respond. He just sits there silently, his back turned, lost in his own despair. Even now, long after quitting that job, Satoru is haunted by that moment, constantly replaying his own words in his mind and questioning everything he said. Yamada finally turns with a faint, hollow smile, weakly promising to try and do something about his situation, but Satoru completely misses the deep pain hidden in his eyes. Suddenly, a shocking sound echoes from the city outside. Satoru cries out his friend's name in pure terror. The news hits him like a physical blow. Yamada was found dead at home. He took his own life. Satoru's world shatters. His eyes fill with horror as he realizes the terrible truth. It's his fault. His words pushed his friend over the edge. From that day forward, he lost all hope in himself and the will to work, giving up on ever trying his best again as he let his life fall into disarray. As he lies in bed playing a game, something on his phone's screen makes him pause. He squints, confused. In his game's inventory, he sees an item he's never seen before, a strange and ominous book of reincarnation. He reflects on how games have always been his only escape from a painful reality, and decides to delete this unknown item before it can cause an error. But his finger slips. In his sleepy haze, he accidentally presses execute instead of delete. His eyes fly open. A wave of panic hits him. He's made a terrible mistake. A blinding light erupts from the phone screen, consuming everything in his room. In the blink of an eye, the room is silent. The bed is empty. Satoru is gone. White doves soar through a brilliant blue sky, gliding over a tranquil garden filled with blooming white roses. The world itself seems to twist and shimmer, reforming into something entirely new. Satoru suddenly finds himself sitting on a cobblestone path, surrounded by the impossibly beautiful garden he just saw. He looks around, his mind reeling as he takes in the sight of a grand mansion and hears the peaceful chirping of birds. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. He has no idea where he is. Still sitting on the path, he desperately tries to understand what is happening as a single white dove lands near him. He gazes at a majestic castle in the distance, a single, overwhelming question filling his mind. Is this all a dream? A darker, more terrifying thought emerges. He wonders if, like his friend, he has died too. Just then, a soft voice speaks from behind him, calmly announcing that he has finally arrived. Startled, he whips his head around, searching for the source of the voice. A beautiful girl in a red hood stands among the roses, offering him a gentle smile as she welcomes him to this new world. Satoru remains on the ground, his eyes wide with disbelief as he stares at the mysterious girl before him. In his daze, he can't help but notice her ethereal beauty, thinking she is as lovely as a flower. She introduces herself as Messiah, claiming to be a goddess, which only deepens Satoru's confusion as he wonders why he's here. Ignoring his questions, Messiah declares she will grant him a single skill, but Satoru is still too lost, demanding to know where he is. He tells her that he doesn't understand what she means by giving him a skill out of nowhere. Completely lost, Satoru tells the goddess to just give him whatever she recommends, but Messiah is utterly stunned by his shockingly casual response. She thinks to herself how rude he is, as most people in this situation would beg for an all-powerful skill to dominate their enemies or gain infinite wealth. She clears her throat, trying to compose herself after his baffling and unenthusiastic reaction. Looking at his exhausted face, she decides to grant him an auto skill, which makes Satoru immediately protest that his tired face is just how he was born. Messiah announces their contract is complete. She prepares to send him on his way. As a brilliant light engulfs him, Satoru's final thought is a simple, nagging question. How does she know his name? In a flash, he is transported away from the garden, reappearing in a vast, peaceful landscape with a serene lake and dense forests. A strange sign materializes before him, labeling his new location as the Grassland Field Level 50. He finds himself sitting in a quiet forest, letting out a deep sigh as he resigns himself to what must be a very hectic and confusing dream. He realizes this new place feels just like a game he used to play, but he shakes his head, refusing to believe he's been reincarnated. It has to be a dream. He looks down and is shocked to find the goddess, Messiah, resting peacefully on his lap as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Her eyes suddenly snap open, her gaze locking directly onto his with an unnerving intensity. She lies there comfortably, while he sits against a tree, a strange calm settling over the forest around them. But the peace is shattered by a terrifying scream that rips through the trees. Messiah leaps up in a frantic panic, shouting that she is being attacked, while Satoru jumps to his feet, desperately searching for the threat. To his utter shock, Messiah points an accusing finger directly at him, blaming him for the attack. She scolds him, insisting he was brought to this world for a purpose, not to attack her. But Satoru can only insist that he isn't doing anything. She sits across from him, pondering his role and asking if he's meant to be some kind of hero who fights monsters on quests. Satoru just looks exhausted. That sounds like far too much work. All he wants to do is rest. Messiah glares at him in frustration, complaining about his complete lack of motivation since the moment they met. The ground suddenly trembles beneath them. Two enormous, savage-looking boars emerge from the woods. Both Satoru and Messiah gasp in unison. Their faces drain of color at the sight of the monsters. A jolt of recognition hits Satoru. He knows this monster from his game. It's a Gulenbursti. Messiah nervously explains that this creature is relentless and will charge blindly until it's dead, and right on cue, one of the boars lowers its head to attack. Despite her fear, Messiah puts on a brave face, telling Satoru not to worry because she will handle this. Satoru can only stare in mute terror. He is completely frozen by fear. As Messiah runs forward, his instincts scream at him to help her, to warn her to be careful. But then, the memory of his friend's tragic, empty smile flashes in his mind, and he remembers the vow he made to himself: never try so hard again. He slumps to the ground, all the fight draining out of him, leaving only hopelessness in its place. He watches her face the monster alone, her small frame looking so fragile against the rampaging beast. He grits his teeth, sweat beading on his forehead. He feels utterly useless, but even so, his body moves on its own. He shoots past Messiah in a blur, dashing towards the danger. Messiah turns, her eyes wide with shock as she watches him run directly at the boar. He is just as stunned as she is. His mind is screaming no, but his body is running. The boar thunders closer. Its angry eyes are fixed on him. Suddenly, a swirling vortex of energy wraps around Satoru's body, forming a protective shield. "Why is my body moving on its own?" he cries out in a panic as Messiah watches, completely bewildered. A message flashes through his mind. Activating auto skill. An invisible force slams into the charging boar, stopping it dead in its tracks. Satoru's heart hammers in his chest. His fear vanishes, replaced by an intense, unwavering focus. A massive explosion of fire erupts from his body, engulfing the first boar in flames. Immediately after, a powerful torrent of water blasts from him, sending the second boar flying. He stares in utter disbelief. He can't comprehend that such incredible power just came from him. Messiah watches with a huge, dazzling smile, her eyes sparkling with pure, unadulterated excitement. He marvels at the fact that he isn't doing anything at all. The skill is attacking entirely on its own. The second boar is relentlessly battered by the automatic attacks until it finally collapses, defeated. Satoru stands panting, his mind racing to catch up with what just happened, as he and Messiah both realize his auto skill has activated. Messiah quickly explains that he just unleashed both a fire and a water attack, the two initial abilities granted by his new skill. Still sweating and catching his breath, he looks down at his hands, wondering if he was truly the one who did that. He looks from the defeated monsters back to his own hands, a profound sense of awe washing over him. "That's amazing," he whispers. As he stands there, lost in wonder, Messiah calls out for him to wait and rushes to his side, but his world is already fading to black. He collapses, his last thought being that this was all just a bizarre dream where he somehow gained incredible powers. As his consciousness fades, Satoru feels a deep sense of peace he hasn't known in years, feeling as though he is finally sinking into a truly restful sleep. His head slumps forward, landing gently on Messiah's lap, and her face immediately flushes red as she gasps in surprise. Panicking slightly, she realizes she rushed to catch him as he fainted, and decides they desperately need a proper house for him to rest in. In a nearby clearing, Messiah proudly presents the wooden frame of a house, explaining that her special construction skill allowed her to build it in an instant. In his half-asleep state, Satoru witnesses a bizarre sight. Dozens of tiny, chibi-style messiahs happily hammering away, building the house at an impossible speed. He drowsily wonders why there are so many miniature versions of her running around. The world around him sparkles and fades as he finally drifts into a deep, dreamless sleep. Satoru's eyes snap open with a gasp. He sits bolt upright in bed, his headphones tumbling from his head. He looks up at a sturdy wooden ceiling, realizing with a jolt that he is no longer in the forest. Sitting up, he asks where he is, and Messiah calmly informs him that he is resting in a hut she built with her skill. She is happily crunching on a snack, and explains that he passed out from exhaustion after using his new power for the first time, but Satoru just blankly asks what she's eating. Later, as they sit together, Satoru recalls the moments before he fainted, remembering how his body moved on its own to protect her from the monster. A small, warm feeling spreads through his chest as he wonders if he actually managed to keep her safe, a sensation he hasn't felt in a very long time. Suddenly, a brilliant light envelops his body, and a glowing sign materializes before him, announcing that he has leveled up. Messiah's eyes go wide with pure excitement, her face lighting up with an expression of absolute joy. She grabs his arm, practically vibrating with energy as she cheers that he really, truly leveled up. Satoru looks down at his own feet planted firmly on the wooden floor. This feels too real. This isn't a dream. He finally accepts his new reality, realizing he was brought to this world for a reason, and turning to Messiah, he speaks her name with newfound resolve. He stands and looks her directly in the eye, demanding to know who she really is and what his true purpose in this world is supposed to be. Messiah just smiles brightly, gently reminding him that, as she already told him, she is a goddess sent to guide him. She confesses that she can't reveal his grand purpose just yet, but promises they will find a clue in a place called the Iron Town of Jarvis. As he sits back down, Messiah gently reminds him that he was just complaining about how having a role sounded like a pain, and he sheepishly agrees that he was. But something has changed within him. He clenches his fist, realizing that he now has the power to save someone, and he needs to know if he can make a difference here. He looks at Messiah, his gaze serious, and tells her that for the first time, he is actually interested in discovering his purpose. A small, satisfied smile touches Messiah's lips as she sees the spark of a hero finally begin to ignite within him. She reflects on how, despite his laziness and ignorance of his own power, she was genuinely surprised and touched that he had saved her. With a radiant and heartfelt smile, she looks at him and says two simple words, "Thank you, Satoru." Her sincere gratitude catches him completely off guard, and a faint blush rises to his cheeks. He sits on the bed, looking away for a moment. He can't remember the last time anyone thanked him like that. Shaking off the feeling, he gets back to business, asking Messiah how they are supposed to get to this town, Jarvis. Messiah gives him a look of surprise before cheerfully announcing that they are already on their way. Just then, a strange rhythmic thumping starts, and Satoru realizes the entire house is moving. He looks outside and is greeted by an unbelievable sight. The entire hut is being carried down a path by a team of muscular men and several small slimes. He peeks out the door in amazement, noticing that his auto skill is even defeating stray monsters that get too close to their bizarre moving house. He closes the window, still trying to process the strange and wonderful convenience of his new powers. Messiah smiles warmly at him, telling him she is looking forward to the day that he, the lazy one, finally saves the world. With a confident grin, she promises that she will be there to guide him every step of the way. The little walking house travels across a vast fantasy landscape, revealing that this world is based on a famous online game called Sacrifice Online. As he rests, Satoru comes to terms with his situation. He has been reincarnated into a world almost identical to the game he loved so much. He knows he has been given a few special perks to help him on his journey, as two adorable unicorn rabbits graze peacefully nearby. One of the unique creatures looks up, its ears twitching with curiosity. Satoru reflects on his first and most important perk, the incredibly powerful auto skill. This skill is a marvel, automatically detecting any monster within a 5-meter radius and unleashing the most effective magic to destroy it instantly. He remembers how this was just a simple auto mode in the game for lazy players, but here it has become a real and formidable power. He also knows that the initial magic provided by the skill is surprisingly powerful right from the start. As he lies in bed, he considers his second reincarnation perk. His eyes slowly flutter open as he begins to wake from his rest. His second gift is a status board that only he can see, and as it appears before him, he is shocked to see he has already reached level 40. He is blown away. Reaching this level in the game would have taken an entire week of non-stop grinding, but he has achieved it in just a few hours. He then thinks about his final, and perhaps strangest, perk. Messiah appears, holding a pan and proudly offering him a home-cooked meal, explaining that he must be hungry since his skills were active even in his sleep. As they sit together, he thinks about his mysterious guide, the goddess Messiah, who knows his purpose but refuses to tell him what it is. He looks down at the meal she has served him, which is a completely charred, pitch-black disaster. Forcing himself to take a bite, he fights back a grimace at the bitter taste, while Messiah cheerfully asks if it's delicious, reminding him of her other odd power, the construction skill. He decides that despite her terrible cooking, she seems like a good person, and she is undeniably cute, so he'll just have to learn more about her as they travel. Their journey continues toward the town of Jarvis, which he remembers from the game as a bustling and prosperous mining hub. Looking out the window, a genuine smile appears on his face. For the first time in a very long time, he is actually looking forward to the future. This journey for two in a magical moving house marks the true beginning of a brand new chapter in Satoru's life. But when they arrive, Jarvis is nothing like he remembers. The town is a dark and desolate ruin, with an eerie wind howling through the empty streets. The buildings are crumbling, and a broken signpost creaks ominously in the wind, amplifying the feeling of a ghost town. Messiah stands on a rooftop, consulting a map to get her bearings in the ruined cityscape. She brushes layers of dust off an old wooden sign, trying to confirm their location. Satoru calls up to her from the street below, his voice filled with uncertainty. He looks around at the devastation, asking if this is really Jarvis and worrying that their map is wrong, but Messiah's expression remains grim and serious. She gives him a slightly annoyed look, as if offended that he would doubt her navigation skills. She points firmly at the sign, which clearly reads Jarvis, confirming that they are indeed in the right, albeit ruined, place. The town lies under a perpetually gray sky, a sad and lonely monument to a time of prosperity that is long gone. Standing in the rubble, Messiah explains that just a few years ago, Jarvis was a thriving town, famous for the weapons it forged from iron mined in the nearby mountains. She finishes her story with a sigh, her voice tinged with sadness as she says that now, not a single trace of that former glory remains. Satoru takes in the dusty air and dilapidated buildings, realizing this world is far different and more broken than the game he once knew. A sense of doubt creeps in as he wonders if he can truly find his purpose in a forgotten, rusty town like this. Just then, Messiah spots a single building down an alley that seems to still be open for business. A hopeful smile brightens her face as she suggests they go inside and ask what happened to the town. Satoru agrees, following her into a weapon shop as the old door creaks open. The inside is a shocking contrast to the town outside, with walls covered in gleaming swords, axes, and shields, all perfectly maintained. They stand in awe, completely stunned by the vast and high-quality collection of weapons and armor. Satoru's excitement is palpable. He exclaims that the shop is incredible, a treasure trove of weapons that makes no sense in such a derelict town. Messiah turns to him, suggesting they buy some equipment, pointing out that even with his powerful skill, he can't go on an adventure in his weird clothes. Satoru grumbles to himself, a little annoyed that she keeps insulting his favorite tracksuit. A man with short blonde hair and a blacksmith's apron appears from the back of the shop to greet the unexpected visitors. The shopkeeper takes a drag from a cigarette, his eyes tired. He admits he's surprised to see customers, as it's been a very long time. He apologizes for the state of his business, explaining that no matter how good his selection is, no one is left in town to buy anything. His heavy work boots show that he is a man of labor, a relic of the town's industrious past. Messiah steps forward, politely asking if he is the owner of this impressive shop. The man sighs heavily, replying that with no customers left, he's not even sure if he can call himself a shopkeeper anymore. He gazes out a barred window at the desolate landscape, explaining that everything went wrong when that thing began its rampage. Satoru's interest is immediately piqued. He asks if this thing is the reason the town is now in ruins. The shopkeeper's face darkens, the painful memories clearly resurfacing. He crushes his cigarette in an ashtray and reveals the cause of the town's downfall, a labor robot from the mines that went completely out of control. He tells them how the robot suddenly transformed into a colossal boss monster, seizing control of the mines and attacking the townspeople, destroying their lives and dreams. A painful memory shows terrified villagers fleeing for their lives as the giant robot loomed over their town. Messiah looks sad, but she also notes that despite the danger, some people, like the shopkeeper, chose to stay. He walks away, his back to them, and says that he's just a fool who couldn't bring himself to abandon the only home he's ever known. Satoru watches him, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He knows what it's like to feel bound to something, unable to let go. He lets out a deep sigh. This whole situation sounds like a massive pain, but a new sense of responsibility begins to stir within him. Messiah watches him closely, noticing the subtle shift in his expression as a flicker of resolve appears. Satoru clenches his fist. He turns to the shopkeeper and asks a simple, direct question. "Is the mine still accessible?" The shopkeeper turns back, his face a mask of complete shock as he tries to understand what Satoru is implying. With a newfound and surprising confidence, Satoru points a thumb at his chest and makes a bold declaration. "That monster! I'll go defeat it." The shopkeeper's jaw drops. He shouts at Satoru, telling him not to be a fool and make it sound so easy when that monster single-handedly destroyed their entire town. Satoru turns to Messiah, his gaze unwavering, and reminds her that she's the one who told him he has an important role to play in this world. He thinks about the game, how it was a simple, open world with no real story, just an endless cycle of leveling up to fight stronger monsters. But this is no longer a game. Since arriving here, he fought to protect someone for the first time in a long while, and he now understands that if his role is to fight, it must be for the sake of others. The painful memory of Yamada's smile fills his mind, and Satoru makes a silent vow that this time he will act without hesitation and live without any more regrets. He turns back to the shopkeeper, his voice filled with a powerful new conviction. and declares that in this world he wants to use his power to save someone. Messiah looks at him, her eyes shining with surprise and admiration, deeply moved by his sudden and heartfelt resolve. The shopkeeper, however, remains skeptical, looking him up and down and asking if he's actually serious about fighting that monster. He then points out Satoru's strange clothes, questioning his sanity, and Satoru grumbles that everyone is being incredibly rude about his tracksuit. After getting directions to the mine, they leave the quiet shop and head towards the dark, ominous mountains looming over the town. They soon arrive at the gaping, shadowy entrance to the abandoned mine, a place of fear and despair. A weathered sign warns them to stay out, but Satoru and Messiah ignore it, stepping into the coal mine dungeon Bifrost to face the danger within. Immediately upon entering, they are swarmed by aggressive, mole-like creatures with sharp horns on their heads. A brilliant flash of magic instantly erupts from Satoru's position. Without him even lifting a finger, his auto skill unleashes a barrage of attacks, effortlessly clearing a path through the swarm of monsters. Satoru smiles, impressed with their progress, and remarks that thanks to the shopkeeper's directions, they've made it this far without getting lost. Messiah agrees, but she seems to have something else on her mind as she observes him. She points out that he seems completely unfazed by the fact that his level is constantly rising with every monster his skill automatically defeats. Messiah smiles softly, finding him to be a complete mystery. He complains about everything being a pain, yet he has already saved her and is now trying to save an entire town. Satoru just listens quietly, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. With a brilliant smile and a confident thumbs up, Messiah tells him that she is counting on him to succeed. He gives her a cool, casual nod, silently accepting her faith in him. He then turns to her and asks if her special construction skill can be used for anything other than building. She immediately shakes her head, stating bluntly that fighting monsters is completely impossible for her, and Satoru is shocked by her instant refusal. She explains that her skills are purely for support, so he will have to be the one to protect her, leaving Satoru to wonder if she's being serious. As they venture deeper into the cave, a loud, metallic clanging echoes from the darkness up ahead. Satoru freezes, asking Messiah if she heard the sound too, and she nervously nods in agreement. He takes a cautious step forward, his heart beginning to pound. The boss must be close. His eyes widen as he peers into the darkness, sensing a presence. He quickly pulls Messiah behind him, his body tensing for a fight. But hiding behind a rock, they find a young, blonde elf girl sitting alone and exhausted on the cave floor. Satoru and Messiah exchange a look of complete surprise, not expecting to find anyone else here. "It's an elf," Satoru whispers, completely baffled as to what she could be doing in such a dangerous place. Messiah gently approaches the elf and asks her why she is all alone in the mine. The elf girl looks up, her eyes wide with sheer panic at the sight of strangers. She lets out a small shriek and scrambles behind Satoru, clinging to him for protection, while explaining that she is incredibly shy around people. Messiah watches the scene with a completely deadpan expression, confused by Satoru's calm acceptance of being used as a human shield. "Seriously, why are you so calm?" she asks, but Satoru just shrugs, admitting he doesn't know either. After the elf calms down, they introduce themselves, and she nervously tells them her name is Reese. Reese explains that she dislikes crowded places and has been living inside the mine to avoid people, which makes Messiah think she is shy to an extreme degree. Reese looks down at the ground, a deep sadness in her eyes as she prepares to share her story. She confesses that she was exiled from her home in the elf village and had nowhere else to turn, so she has been using the abandoned mine as a hideout. She recalls how the people of Jarvis were kind to her when she had no one, and now she desperately wants to find a way to save them in return. Messiah is surprised to hear such a brave wish coming from the timid, shy elf. A sudden thought strikes Messiah. She looks at Reese with new eyes, wondering if she could be the legendary saint that the townspeople believe in. Reese explains the local legend, how the adults told her that a saint would one day appear to save them in their time of greatest need. With her hands clasped in prayer, she says she believes that if she keeps praying here, the saint will finally come and save Jarvis. Satoru listens to her story, the idea of a legendary saint feeling like a distant and unlikely hope. He reflects on how strange this world is, filled with all sorts of people, from goddesses to saints. Satoru gently interrupts her, suggesting that instead of waiting for a miracle, it would be far more certain if they just handled the monster themselves. Reese looks up at him, her eyes wide with surprise at his confident and direct approach. Satoru places a determined hand on Messiah's shoulder, his voice ringing with purpose as he declares their new objective. They will defeat the monster and reclaim the mine. Reese stares at them, a hopeful blush rising to her cheeks as she realizes they are serious. A wave of understanding washes over her. They are not just talkers, they are heroes. She grabs her staff and stands up, bravely offering to lead them directly to the boss's location. She quickly adds that she's useless with magic and can't fight, which makes Messiah comically slide away from her in disappointment. Messiah continues to scoot away, not wanting to be associated with someone so unhelpful in a fight. She lets out a silent scream, a pure frustration. Suddenly, a massive metal foot crashes down in front of them with a deafening thud. It seems a guide won't be necessary. The colossal mining robot, the source of the town's suffering, looms over them, its drill arms ready for battle. The three of them can only stare up in sheer, unadulterated terror at the monstrous machine. "No, this is way too big," Satoru stammers, cold sweat dripping down his face. He had imagined a much smaller robot, but this thing is an absolute giant, and its red sensor light whirs to life, locking on to them. He forces himself to stand his ground, putting his faith in his auto skill as the robot's drill arm begins to spin violently. The robot lunges, and Satoru grabs both Messiah and Reese, leaping out of the way just as the drill smashes into the ground, causing a massive explosion. He quickly checks on the girls, asking if they are all right, and they both nod, shaken, but unhurt. He gets to his feet, his face grim. The situation is worse than he thought. He explains that his auto skill activated, but it was only strong enough to deflect the attack, not stop it or damage the robot. The horrifying reality sinks in. At his current level, all he can do is dodge. They cannot win. He collapses to his knees in despair, wondering what he can possibly do against such an overwhelming foe. Messiah rushes to his side, calling his name, her voice filled with worry. She makes a decision. She will grant him her support skill, Orcus, which will temporarily triple the power of his auto skill. Satoru looks up at her, a flicker of hope returning to his eyes. A brilliant light surrounds Messiah as she casts the spell, urging him to attack one more time with this newfound power. As the power surges into him, Satoru realizes a fundamental truth. He is already not alone. He has allies counting on him, and that gives him strength. The power of Orcus feels like a warm, encouraging embrace, filling him with the confidence to fight back. His eyes narrow with intense focus. His body moves, unleashing a powerful wave of magic. The supercharged attack slams directly into the robot's head with a thunderous impact. But the magic dissipates harmlessly. It leaves not a single scratch on the thick armor. All three of them stare in absolute shock. Messiah cries out, unable to believe that it didn't work. The robot stomps its foot, shaking the ground and sending Satoru stumbling backward from the shockwave. He clenches his fist in frustration. The robot's armor is just too thick. He feels completely powerless. As the cave continues to rumble from the robot's movements, Reese desperately searches for a solution. She refuses to give up. There must be a weakness somewhere. Her sharp elven eyes scan the massive machine, searching for any vulnerability. And then she sees it. She shouts for Satoru to get directly underneath the robot. Reese, frantically, explains that the armor on its underside is much thinner, and if he can land a direct hit there, they might have a chance. But Messiah protests, arguing that it's a suicide mission. The robot will crush him before he can even get close. She gasps, realizing Satoru is no longer beside her. He is already charging head-on towards the giant monster, ignoring the danger. The robot's massive drill arm whirs, preparing another devastating attack. "I don't have time to hesitate," Satoru thinks, a determined smile on his face. He breaks into a full sprint, his feet pounding against the rocky ground as he closes the distance. Messiah and Reese can only watch in terror, certain he is running to his doom. But Satoru leaps onto the robot's moving tread, using its momentum to launch himself high into the air with an incredible burst of power. Messiah watches in utter amazement, realizing that his high level has dramatically improved his physical abilities as well. She looks on, her heart swelling with pride at his incredible growth. "Satoru, your growth is beyond my imagination," she thinks, a tear of joy welling in her eye. Soaring through the air, Satoru positions himself perfectly underneath the robot, his hand glowing with the full, concentrated power of his skill, ready to strike. He unleashes everything he has. A massive explosion of pure, magical energy erupts from underneath the giant robot. The boosted attack strikes the weak point again and again, creating a chain reaction of internal explosions that tear through the machine. The final shockwave is so intense that it sends a cracked spider webbing across Satoru's headphones. A huge chunk of the robot's armor clatters to the cave floor, ripped away by the sheer force of the blast. The robot's sensor light flickers and dies. A metallic voice echoes one last time. "Anomaly detected! Shutting down!" With a final groaning shudder, the colossal machine collapses, its systems failing as it finally powers down for good. Satoru stands panting, staring in disbelief at the defeated giant he just brought down. He looks from the fallen monster to his friends, a profound realization dawning on him. This victory wasn't his alone. This is the power of allies. Overcome with relief and joy, Reese bursts into tears, sobbing out Satoru's name. He walks over with a gentle smile, telling her she's crying too much as she thanks him over and over again for saving them. Messiah watches them, a slight blush on her cheeks as she quietly reminds him that she told him she was counting on him. Both girls stand together, beaming at him with genuine admiration, telling him how incredibly cool he was back there. Satoru blushes deeply, completely flustered by all the sudden praise and attention. He scratches the back of his head, admitting to himself that being praised like this doesn't feel too bad at all, as a genuine smile lights up his face. Far from the dark and ruined town of Jarvis, a beautiful, sprawling city rests peacefully on a cliffside. This magnificent place, filled with light and life, is known as the Flower Capital, Frisia. Inside a grand, silent church, a lone figure in a white and gold hood walks with purpose down the empty aisle. The figure stops before a beautiful stained glass window, looking at the image of a mother and child and thinking that they must find him soon. She lowers her hood, revealing a beautiful woman with blonde hair, her eyes filled with a desperate worry as she prays that she isn't too late to stop the world from being destroyed. Back in the now safe mine, Reese holds up a sparkling gem, her face alight with joy as she asks if they are finally escaping the cave. The three heroes step out of the darkness of the mine, walking together into the light of the outside world. As they walk through the forest, Messiah notices something on Satoru's arm and asks if he's okay. He looks down to see a nasty cut he hadn't noticed in the heat of battle and tries to brush it off as just a scratch. But the moment he relaxes, a sharp pain shoots through his arm and he cries out, realizing the adrenaline has finally worn off. He jokingly asks Messiah to heal him since she's a goddess, but she retorts that she's not all-powerful. Reese looks down at the ground, blushing and sweating nervously as if she wants to say something. She hesitates for a moment, gathering her courage as Satoru and Messiah look over at her expectantly. Timidly, she offers to try and heal his injury, which takes Satoru completely by surprise. He stares at her, hardly able to believe what he just heard from the girl who claimed to be useless with magic. He stands back, waiting with a mix of curiosity and skepticism to see what she will do. It suddenly dawns on him that in every fantasy game, elves are masters of magic, and he wonders if Reese has been hiding her true abilities. His heart thumps with excitement as he imagines her unleashing a spectacular, high-level recovery spell. But instead of casting a spell, Reese simply kneels and begins grinding herbs in a stone bowl. Satoru and Messiah can only stare in blank confusion, their hopes of witnessing incredible magic completely dashed. She continues to grind the herbs with the end of her staff, her face a mask of intense concentration. After a moment, she lets out a proud sigh, her work finally finished. She presents him with a poultice made from the herbs, instructing him to apply it to his wound, and it should get better in a few days. Satoru is baffled by the idea of waiting days to heal and asks about recovery magic, but Reese just laughs, reminding him that she told him she wasn't good at it. She cheerfully holds up a peace sign, explaining the strange paradox that she has an immense amount of magical energy but is completely unable to cast spells. Reese explains that while she can't use magic, she does have useful skills like identifying medicinal herbs and even a cleaning skill. Satoru realizes that this world isn't a perfect copy of the game. It has its own unique rules and abilities he has yet to learn. He looks at his newly bandaged arm and offers her a simple but genuine thanks. As they decide to head back to town, another rustle in the bushes startles Satoru. A small boy suddenly appears from the foliage, carrying a large basket and a bundle of plants on his head. Startled by their sudden appearance, the boy trips and falls over, and Satoru asks what a child is doing alone in such a dangerous area. The boy peeks nervously from behind his basket, his eyes wide with fear. Satoru asks if he came from the mine they just cleared, and the boy timidly nods. The boy shivers, whispering that the rumors of ghosts haunting the abandoned mines must be true. Thinking Satoru is a ghost, he grabs his sleeve and desperately tries to offer him the plants he gathered. Before Satoru can react, the boy panics and throws a punch directly into his stomach, yelling, "Exorcism punch!" For a moment, the forest is completely silent. The boy, Yuki, apologizes profusely, explaining that he genuinely thought Satoru was a ghost emerging from the haunted mine. His fear quickly turns into wide-eyed admiration, as he realizes Satoru must be incredibly strong for surviving the mine that no one has ever returned from. Satoru, recovering from the punch, asks Yuki why he would risk coming to such a dangerous place alone. With a determined look that belies his age, Yuki explains that his little sister is hungry and there's no food at home, so he had to gather some himself. Reese watches the brave little boy, her heart aching with sympathy for his plight. She gently takes a plant from his hand, warning him that it's a poisonous Kirino flower and that he must be careful. Reese looks down at the flower with a heavy heart, realizing that defeating the robot hasn't solved the town's more immediate problem: starvation. Satoru looks at the hungry child and his worried companions, a deep desire to help solidifying in his heart. He is filled with a powerful resolve to do something more for these people. At that exact moment, a brilliant light flashes around him once again. He has leveled up. He realizes that defeating such a powerful boss monster must have granted him an enormous amount of experience points. He stares at his hands, surprised by the new surge of power flowing through him. He stops walking, a thoughtful expression on his face, which makes Messiah and Reese look over with curiosity. Messiah asks what's wrong, pointing out that he just leveled up yet again. A wide, confident grin spreads across Satoru's face as he tells them that's not all that happened. A holographic screen appears before him, displaying a brand new skill, Blessing of Shino, a power that automates the growth of crops. Messiah and Reese stare at him, their mouths agape in utter shock and amazement. Satoru spreads his arms wide, announcing to the small group that he has just acquired a farming skill, the perfect solution to the town's food crisis. Messiah gives him a skeptical sniff, her expression full of doubt. She points out that it's not a combat skill, which makes Satoru flustered as he insists that it's a great skill regardless. Reese, however, blushes, clearly impressed by this new, life-giving power. Her eyes sparkle with admiration as she looks up at Satoru. She suddenly grabs him, her face just inches from his as she exclaims how amazing this skill is and what it could mean for everyone. She leans in even closer, her excitement completely overwhelming her usual shyness. Satoru blushes, furiously, completely flustered by her sudden proximity. Messiah steps between them, gently pushing Reese back and telling her she's getting far too close. Yuki playfully teases Messiah, telling her not to be jealous, while she insists that's not what's happening at all. The newly formed group walks together, united by a new mission to bring hope back to the town of Jarvis. The old shopkeeper leads them to a vast, barren field of cracked earth, explaining that it was once the largest potato field in the city. He looks at Satoru with a mix of desperation and disbelief, asking if he's truly serious about trying to grow food in such dead soil. Overcome with emotion, the shopkeeper pulls Satoru into a rough, heartfelt hug, calling him a savior while Satoru complains about his scratchy beard. Reese peeks out from behind them, a little amused by the emotional display. The shopkeeper voices his doubt, asking if it's even possible to plow a field in this condition, and Satoru has to agree that it looks hopeless. The land is completely dried up, utterly devoid of any life or vitality. But, Satoru says, holding out his hand as a warm, sparkling light gathers in his palm, with this skill, it is. He touches the ground and the light erupts outwards in a massive wave of energy, spreading across the entire field in an instant. The wave of pure life energy transforms the barren land as it passes over it. In a matter of seconds, the dry earth becomes rich, fertile soil, and thousands of tiny green sprouts magically push their way towards the sky. Satoru wipes a bit of dirt from his cheek, a satisfied smile on his face as he looks at his handiwork. All right, I guess this is enough. Messiah and Reese stare at the miracle before them, completely speechless. Messiah whispers that it's a surprisingly good skill, having plowed the entire field in an instant. The shopkeeper is overcome with tears of joy, exclaiming that he must hurry and tell the other villagers about the miracle that has just happened. A few days later, the field is overflowing with lush green potato plants, and the shopkeeper still can't believe his eyes. Satoru stands beside him and says with a gentle smile that this isn't a lie or a dream. This new hope is real. The shopkeeper looks out at the bountiful harvest with tears in his eyes, praying that this will finally bring the people of Jarvis back home. The memory flashes back to a younger shopkeeper whose son calls out to him in the forge. The son, now older, watches his father work tirelessly and laments that even if they keep forging weapons, there is no one left to use them. But his father, his face grim with resolve, insists that if they let the fire of their forge die, then all hope for the town is truly lost. He places a hand on his son's shoulder, telling him that one day, he will be the one to carry on this legacy. The young man looks down, the heavy weight of his family's and his town's future resting squarely on his shoulders. But the weight is too much to bear. The son apologizes to his father and walks away, abandoning his home just like everyone else. As the people disappeared one by one, the once lively town of Jarvis faded into complete and utter silence. But now, in the present, the old shopkeeper stands in the thriving field, a gentle, hopeful smile on his face. He thinks about Satoru, the boy who complained about everything being a pain, and yet it was this same boy who brought a small but powerful hope back to their dying town. It feels as if that hope is like the new sprouts, finally peeking its face out from the soil after a long, dark winter. The very next day, the entire field is filled with fully grown, ready-to-harvest potatoes. The speed is unbelievable. The field is alive with the cheerful noise of children harvesting the potatoes, and Satoru marvels that they grew enough to be harvested in a single day. The little boy, Yuki, calls out his name, his voice filled with excitement. He holds up a handful of potatoes with a huge grin and a peace sign, proudly showing off how many he has harvested. Satoru can't help but smile warmly, praising the boy for his amazing work. Yuki thanks Satoru from the bottom of his heart, explaining that now his little sister can finally eat her fill. Yuki's little sister and Reese join them to offer their thanks, but Satoru humbly insists that it wasn't just his power. He tells them that this was a power they gained by working together as a team. He makes sure to point out that Reese had been worried about the people of Jarvis this entire time, which makes the little girl look at the elf with surprise. Reese blushes under the sudden attention, while Yuki's sister looks at her with wide, excited eyes. The little girl beams up at Reese, thanking her for helping everyone, and her pure gratitude makes the shy elf's heart glow. Reese's eyes sparkle with a happiness she hasn't felt in a very long time. Satoru watches this touching moment, feeling a little awkward, but undeniably happy. Suddenly, a loud cheer erupts as the townspeople celebrate the bountiful harvest. Messiah, who has been happily helping, comes over to join the celebration. Satoru watches her interacting with the children and tells her she looks like she's having fun. He thinks that for all her talk of being a goddess, right now, she just seems like a normal, kind-hearted girl. She proudly shows him a bunch of fruits she has picked, calling out for him to help with the huge harvest. Messiah holds up the fruit, her face lit up with an adorable and triumphant smile. Satoru chuckles and playfully tells her she has some dirt on her nose. She rubs her face, asking if it's gone, but he teases her, saying it's still there. She stomps her foot in cute frustration. She closes her eyes with a blush and asks him to take it off for her. Satoru's eyes widen, surprised and flustered by her unexpectedly cute request. He reaches out and roughly wipes her nose with his sleeve, making her yelp and complain about his rough methods. Just then, Reese pops her head out from the potato plants, excited to have found another patch ready for harvest. Satoru feels his cheeks flush, admitting to himself that he has no resistance to girls, especially one with the perfectly formed face of a goddess. As he stands among the baskets of potatoes, a silent, cloaked figure approaches him from behind. It is the mysterious blonde woman from the church, her hood drawn low to hide her face. Satoru sits on the grass, thinking that he'll get tired of eating steamed potatoes every day. But the thought of actually cooking them in different ways seems like far too much of a hassle. The cloaked woman takes another silent step closer. She approaches him as he sits lost in his lazy thoughts. With a beautiful and disarming smile, the woman offers her assistance, revealing that she has a cooking skill and can make anything he desires. Satoru is completely taken aback by her sudden appearance and her incredible offer. He stares at her, captivated by her sparkling eyes, and wonders who this mysterious girl could possibly be. He thinks to himself that she is almost impossibly beautiful, and in his flustered state, he stammers out a request for potato chips. The woman smiles, taking a basket of potatoes from him and confirming that she understands his request for a snack. A magical glow envelops the basket as she activates her skill, the raw potatoes beginning to shimmer. The light intensifies, swirling with a brilliant and powerful energy that transforms the potatoes in an instant. In a flash, the basket is filled not with potatoes, but with a pile of perfectly cooked, crispy potato chips. Satoru can only stare, his eyes wide with utter amazement at the magical snack. The children who have gathered around gasp in awe, exclaiming how delicious the chips look. The woman offers the basket to the children, warmly inviting them to help themselves. They take a bite and their faces light up with pure joy, declaring that the chips are absolutely delicious. The woman then offers a bowl to Satoru, a kind smile on her face. He takes a chip and his eyes immediately fill with tears of joy. He cries that there are no convenience stores here, and he has been craving them for so long. She smiles gently, glad that he is enjoying them, but her expression slowly turns serious. She reveals that she came here specifically to meet him, which takes Satoru completely by surprise. "No," she corrects herself, her voice becoming grave. "I came here to give you a warning." With a cold and serious look, she tells him that he must stay away from Messiah. Before he can even process that, she delivers a shocking blow. "You are going to die." Satoru is speechless. The unexpected warning leaves him completely and utterly confused. The mysterious woman's eyes are filled with an unwavering and serious light, showing she is not joking. She asks him if Messiah approached him by claiming to be a goddess, all while Messiah herself plays with the children nearby, oblivious. A flashback reminds him of the first time he met Messiah in the garden. Another flashback shows Messiah explaining her mission in this world. Satoru, still in shock, asks how she could possibly know all these details about his arrival. The woman smiles serenely, explaining that she knows because she is a saint, guided here by God himself. She then drops a bombshell, revealing what she believes to be Messiah's true identity, a Grim Reaper. Her long blonde hair flows in the wind as she declares that her purpose is to act as a Grim Reaper. Satoru is completely stunned, his mind struggling to comprehend this terrifying new information. Messiah turns, finally sensing the tense atmosphere between Satoru and the stranger. She looks over, her expression unreadable as she assesses the situation. The two women, the saint and the so-called Grim Reaper, stand in opposition, leaving Satoru with an impossible choice. Which one will he believe? Back inside the newly repaired moving house, Reese looks around in delight, exclaiming how lovely their home is. Satoru smiles, explaining that the house only moves because of the hard-working men underneath, a fact that continues to amaze Reese. Reese shyly glances over at the new guest, who is sitting quietly at their table. She whispers to Satoru, asking who exactly their mysterious visitor is. The woman places her teacup down and apologizes for her late introduction. "I am Fortuna," she announces. "I am a saint from the city of flowers, Frisia." Reese is starstruck, stammering that she's always dreamed of meeting a real saint. The entire group sits at the table, listening as Fortuna formally introduces herself. Overcome with emotion, Reese begs Fortuna to use her powers to save the town of Jarvis. Fortuna smiles and agrees, explaining that she received a revelation from God to guide the Savior who is destined to save the world. Messiah listens to this, her expression hardening as she realizes what Fortuna is implying. Fortuna then looks directly at Satoru and reveals the two truths she learned from her divine guidance, that Satoru is the Savior and that Messiah is a Grim Reaper. Messiah remains completely silent, her face a perfect mask that betrays no emotion. Satoru jumps to his feet, demanding to know what Fortuna means by calling Messiah a Grim Reaper. He insists that Messiah is a goddess, the one who has guided and helped him since he arrived. He argues that he knows the game this world is based on, and there was never any setting or rule about him dying like this. Fortuna agrees that he is right, and she offers to explain the true history of this world. Her story begins hundreds of millions of years ago, when a paradise-like world was born from the power of three great gods. But that peace was shattered by the demon lord of death, Zoltarian, who sought to plunge the world into darkness with his curse of death. Fortuna's expression remains grave as she continues her harrowing tale. She explains the devastating effects of the curse. It makes monsters unbelievably violent, and it causes humans to lose their will to live until they ultimately perish. Satoru listens, horrified by the description of this terrible curse and its purpose. Fortuna admits that there is still much they don't know about the curse, as it is still under investigation. Her eyes fill with pain as she confesses that her own family fell victim to the curse and are now bedridden, and she was powerless to do anything for them. Satoru listens in silence, a wave of sympathy washing over him. However, she continues, her gaze locking onto Satoru with renewed hope, in the midst of this despair, there is hope. She tells him that he is that hope, the one who was called to this world to save it from the spreading darkness. Satoru is stunned. He wonders how Fortuna could possibly know that he isn't from this world. Reese tries to process the conflicting roles. Messiah the Grim Reaper, Fortuna the Saint, and Satoru the Savior, leaving her as just an ordinary elf caught in the middle. Satoru looks at Fortuna, her story beginning to make a terrifying kind of sense. With a gentle but firm expression, Fortuna offers, "In place of Messiah, who leads you to death, I will be the one to guide you, Satoru." He stands in stunned silence, his mind reeling as he tries to reconcile the two completely different stories he has just heard. He pulls Messiah aside, needing to hear her side of the story away from the others. He asks her directly about the goddess she claimed to be, demanding to know the truth. Messiah looks down, unable to meet his gaze, and remains silent for a long, tense moment. She finally speaks, her voice soft but shaking with emotion, admitting she can't tell him everything right now, but begging him to trust her. With tears welling in her eyes, she makes a desperate, heartfelt promise. "I will protect you, Satoru. I will absolutely not let him die." Fortuna watches them, her own eyes filled with a fierce, unwavering determination. Satoru looks into Messiah's sincere eyes, his heart completely torn. He whispers her name, lost and unsure of who to believe. Fortuna steps between them, pleading with Satoru not to be deceived by the lies of a Grim Reaper. She grabs his arm, insisting that it is her sacred duty to guide him and begging him to come with her to Frisia. Messiah retorts, telling Fortuna not to be so presumptuous and playfully pointing out that she has no idea just how lazy Satoru really is. She goes on to list his bad habits, from falling asleep constantly to skipping baths, which makes Satoru protest in embarrassment. Both girls turn to him at the same time, their voices overlapping as they call his name. They both shout at him, demanding that he choose which one of them he wants as his guide. Satoru is completely overwhelmed by the pressure, while Reese watches from the sidelines, her eyes sparkling with excitement at the unfolding drama. Messiah declares that if they can't agree, they will decide with force, arguing that the world will end if she can't protect Satoru when it counts. Fortuna scoffs, claiming that she is the only one who can keep Satoru safe and would never put him in danger. With a shockingly fierce expression, Fortuna clenches her fist, and Satoru is stunned to realize the gentle saint might actually be a fighter. Reese cries out as Fortuna suddenly lunges at Messiah, ready to start a fight. Messiah's eyes narrow, her playful demeanor gone as she prepares to defend herself. With a loud crack, Messiah instantly summons a wooden chair with her construction skill, blocking Fortuna's powerful punch. She then creates a hole in the floor right under Reese, who yelps and scrambles to safety, while Satoru wonders if using her powers like this is even fair. Messiah explains her harsh methods, arguing that Satoru needs to be pushed to level up quickly or they won't make it in time. Fortuna glares at her, accusing her of finally showing her true, cruel colors and claiming this is proof of her transformation into a Grim Reaper. Fortuna dodges a blast of energy from Messiah, the battle quickly escalating. The chaotic fight sends furniture flying everywhere, threatening to tear the small house apart. "It's going to break!" Reese screams as the house groans under the strain of their battle. Satoru watches as the two powerful beings continue their destructive fight, completely ignoring him. He clenches his fists, his patience finally snapping. "You guys," he growls. They are locked in combat, deaf to everything but their own conflict. "Cut it out!" Satoru roars, unleashing a massive burst of his own energy that blows the door off its hinges and blasts a hole in the wall. Outside, a flock of birds scatters into the sky, startled by the sudden and violent explosion. The shopkeeper and the villagers hear the commotion and look over in alarm, murmuring amongst themselves. They arrive to find the once lovely moving house completely destroyed, reduced to a pile of splintered wood. The shopkeeper rushes forward, calling out for Messiah and Fortuna in a panic. Reese, covered in dust, tearfully explains that Satoru himself delivered the final blow that destroyed the house. The three culprits sit on the ground, ashamed. Fortuna covers her face, hiding her expression of deep regret. She whispers a quiet, heartfelt apology for her actions. She admits that she failed as a saint, allowing her own selfish desires to consume her. With tears streaming down her face, she cries out that all she wants is to save her family from the terrible curse. Messiah's expression softens with sympathy. She tells Fortuna about a person in Frisia named Mictran, who is investigating the curse of death. She looks at Fortuna, her rivalry forgotten, replaced by a genuine desire to help. "Could you meet him?" Messiah asks, offering her a real chance to find a cure. Satoru looks at Fortuna, who is still kneeling in despair. He has only just met her today. He doesn't know anything about this Mictran person or if he can be trusted. But the memory of his own desperation to save his friend Yamada floods his mind. He understands her pain completely. "I'll do it," he says. "I'll go to Frisia." Just then, the shopkeeper calls out, interrupting the emotional moment. Satoru asks what they are doing here, surprised to see the villagers gathered. The shopkeeper explains that he went to all the trouble of bringing them something good as a gift. He presents Satoru with a set of new clothes and a beautiful, ornate sword. Satoru stares at the incredible gift, completely stunned and at a loss for words. Messiah smiles, realizing the town has gifted him new clothes and proper adventuring equipment. The shopkeeper explains that he couldn't stand the thought of their savior fighting in weird clothes without even a proper sword or shield. With a warm, grateful smile, he tells Satoru that this is a token of the town's gratitude for saving Jarvis. Satoru blushes, deeply touched by their kindness, and manages a quiet, heartfelt thanks. He then tries to refuse, insisting that he can't possibly accept such an expensive and generous gift. Messiah gently places a hand on his shoulder, stopping his protests. She tells him that he is already acting like a true savior by helping people in need. "So, stand tall," she says, with a proud and encouraging smile, telling him he deserves this. Satoru looks at her, his heart filled with a warm, comforting feeling. Yuki chimes in, reminding everyone that Messiah fought bravely as well. Messiah beams with a huge, happy grin, her fangs showing as she soaks in the praise. Satoru watches her, a small, fond smile on his face as he makes his decision. He looks out at the sunrise over the mountains and decides that he will trust what he has seen with his own eyes, not just what he's been told. The next day, the town of Jarvis feels brighter and more full of life than it has in years. The shopkeeper and the grateful villagers gather to see their heroes off on their new journey. Satoru, now dressed in his handsome new adventurer gear, looks the part of a true hero, and he thanks Messiah for the compliment. Suddenly, little Yuki runs up and hugs him tightly, begging him not to leave. "Just live here in Jarvis," he cries, his voice thick with tears. "It would be so reassuring if you stayed with us." Satoru looks down at the boy with a gentle, understanding smile. He kneels down and pats Yuki's head, telling him how much his feelings mean to him. But his expression becomes serious as he explains that, just like he helped the people of Jarvis, he wants to help anyone who is in trouble. The villagers smile, understanding the noble heart of their young hero. Messiah speaks up, agreeing that going to Frisia is fine. "But is Fortuna coming along too?" she asks, making it clear their rivalry is not over. Fortuna confirms that she is, of course, coming. Both girls get right in Satoru's face, arguing over who has the right to be his one true guide. Reese watches them, sighing deeply at their endless bickering. "Please, don't fight," she pleads as the four of them officially begin their journey to the City of Flowers. Later, on the road, Reese asks what kind of place Frisia is. Fortuna shows her a map, pointing out that Frisia is near the elf village, but she has never actually been there herself. She explains that it is one of the 17 Holy Lands, a magnificent capital city founded by the god King Arcturus. She excitedly describes how lively the city is, especially during the Grand Saints Festival, only to look over and see that her audience, Satoru, is already fast asleep on the bed. While he snoozes, Reese asks when he will ever wake up, complaining that he is always sleeping. With Satoru out of the way, the girls settle in for some much-needed girls' talk time. At last, they arrive at their destination, the magnificent and sprawling flower capital, Frisia. Walking through the bustling streets, Satoru is amazed by the beautiful scenery and lively atmosphere, a stark contrast to the desolate ruins of Jarvis. He asks Reese if she's ever been here before, but she reminds him they already had this entire conversation while he was asleep. Fortuna, filled with energy and excitement, declares that their first stop should be the Adventurers Guild. Satoru observes that she seems incredibly happy, and guesses she's excited to finally meet her friend Mictran. Messiah chimes in, noting that it makes sense for her to be happy since Frisia is her hometown. Reese's eyes suddenly light up with hearts as she puts two and two together, excitedly asking if Mictran is a very important and special person to Fortuna. Satoru's bland reaction makes Reese complain that he's being boring. Reese leans in, whispering that she means Fortuna and Mictran must have a special romantic relationship. Satoru and Messiah immediately deny it, with Satoru insisting there's no way it's true, and Messiah adding that someone as messy as Fortuna isn't his type. Reese is confused, pointing out that Satoru and Messiah have been inseparable since they met and even lived together, but they both insist it's completely different. They try to explain that they just happened to meet on the road, which only confuses Reese even more. Reese apologizes, admitting that she must have jumped to the wrong conclusions. Messiah looks down, a sad and lonely expression on her face, seemingly hurt by Satoru's casual dismissal of their relationship. Satoru, Messiah, Reese, and Fortuna arrive in the grand city of Frisia, approaching a busy counter to find the researcher Mictran. The air is thick with anticipation, as they seek the one person who might hold a cure for the world's curse. But the receptionist's words shatter their hopes. Fortuna's cheerful expression dissolves into disbelief as she desperately asks what the woman means, her heart suddenly pounding with a terrible fear. With deep sadness in her eyes, the receptionist explains the dire situation, revealing that Mictran ventured into the treacherous underwater ruins a week ago to investigate the curse of death and has not been seen since. She adds a chilling detail. Monsters have appeared there, and a rescue mission is likely needed. Fortuna cries out in denial, refusing to accept that he could be in danger. Panic grips her. Tears well in her eyes. She insists it's impossible for someone so strong. From the side, Messiah and Reese observe the escalating panic, Reese's face etched with worry for Fortuna, while Messiah remains a calm, unreadable presence. Satoru watches, feeling helpless. He's paralyzed by Fortuna's raw distress, a single bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as he struggles to find the right words. Fortuna's gaze falls, her mind racing as she's forced to confront just how deeply she cares for this missing person, realizing in this moment how precious Mictran truly is to her. Satoru tries to offer some small comfort, gently suggesting that they could simply wait, clinging to the slim hope that Mictran might return on his own. But his own thoughts betray that hope. Satoru's face hardens with resolve as he remembers the true stakes. Without a cure for the curse of death, Fortuna's family faces certain doom. Messiah watches him closely, her eyes sharp. She sees the decision crystallizing in his expression and knows exactly what he is about to do. With a knowing smile, Messiah steps forward, acknowledging that there is no stopping him now and vowing to lend him her power to protect him if the mission turns dangerous. Suddenly, Reese pops up with surprising energy, waving her hand and eagerly declaring that she also knows what he's thinking and is ready to help, catching Satoru completely off guard. He looks slightly stunned by their immediate, unwavering support. Fortuna hesitates, her face a mixture of hope and fear, struggling to voice the request for help that is lodged in her throat. A confident smile finally breaks across Satoru's face as he takes charge. He announces it'll be faster if they go rescue Mictran themselves, igniting the group with a shared purpose. Fortuna's hope is tinged with worry for his safety. She reminds him that if the monster reports are true, this mission could put him in incredible danger. Satoru meets her gaze, simply saying her name with a quiet firmness that shows he has already accepted the risks. Overwhelmed by his selflessness, Fortuna blushes deeply. Words fail her and she can only whisper her profound thanks. In a gesture of pure respect and desperation, She bows deeply before Satoru and his companions, formally asking them to lend her their strength for the dangerous task ahead. The team looks back at her with unified warmth, their smiles showing that this shared crisis has forged them into something stronger. Their journey begins, taking them through a dense forest where sunlight streams down, illuminating their path toward the unknown. They soon arrive at a breathtaking and eerie sight, ancient, broken ruins standing silently in the center of a vast lake. Stepping inside, Satoru marvels at the grand stone hall before them, questioning why a place holding secrets to the curse of death would be built in such an inaccessible, underwater location. The party descends a long, wet staircase, their footsteps echoing in the damp, ancient air. Fortuna explains that she shares his confusion, admitting that even she finds it strange for a temple to be built upon the water's surface while they continue their descent. She tells him that the lower levels have flooded over time, which is why Mictran, who possesses unique powers, had to venture in alone to investigate the deteriorating depths. Messiah's curiosity gets the better of her. She cuts in, directly asking Fortuna who this mysterious Mictran really is. As a shadowy image of a man with glasses flashes in her mind, Fortuna explains that he is a special investigator tasked with studying forbidden curses that even a Saintess cannot heal. A proud, gentle smile touches Fortuna's lips. She finally reveals the personal connection. Mictran is her older brother. Satoru shouts in surprise. Reese realizes he wasn't a lover. Messiah playfully teases that Fortuna seems to have a strong admiration for her. Brother. Reese looks down, embarrassed by her assumption, but her face quickly fills with genuine worry for the safety of Fortuna's brother in such a dangerous place. Satoru gently reminds Reese that she doesn't have to join the fight, but she gasps, clearly hurt by the thought of being left behind. Determined to prove her worth, Reese puffs out her chest, vowing to be brave this time and show everyone that she can be helpful too. Her foot slips. She loses her balance. The wet stone betrays her. A terrified scream rips through the hall as she tumbles down the stairs, her friends watching in helpless horror. She hits the water below with a loud, echoing sound. Satoru rushes to the edge, his heart pounding as he calls down to her, desperate to know if she's all right. Reese surfaces, dizzy but defiant, flashing a weak peace sign and joking that she can now warn them about the seawater, earning a slightly strained thank you from Satoru. But something sinister moves in the deep. A dark tentacle slithers through the water, closing in on her. Reese's eyes widen in absolute terror. She sees the monster. She is trapped. It happens in an instant. A tentacle coils around her. Satoru screams her name as she is dragged beneath the surface. Fortuna and Satoru stare in shock, realizing the horrifying rumors about monsters in the ruins were true. Panic sets in. They must save Reese, but they are trapped on the steps, unable to cross the monster-infested water to reach her. Just then, Messiah's hand begins to glow with a brilliant, sparkling light as she prepares to cast a spell. A strange power envelops Satoru and Fortuna, allowing them to step directly onto the water's surface as it parts around them. Satoru stares down at his boots in disbelief. The water magically avoids him, creating a dry space for him to stand. He can't believe his eyes. The water is actively repelling him, a clear sign of Messiah's incredible power. Messiah stands on the stairs behind them, her magical aura fading as she proudly explains that she has bestowed upon them a water-repelling skill. With a playful wink and a flash of her fangs, she reminds Satoru that she told him he would need her power. Fortuna glances back at Messiah with a stern, distrustful glare, still unwilling to accept help from the one she calls a grim reaper. Ignoring the look, Messiah steps onto the water herself, her voice ringing with determination as she commands them to go. Satoru doesn't hesitate. He sprints across the water's surface, his mind focused on one thing: rescuing Reese. As they venture deeper, a massive tentacle sways ominously in the murky water ahead. It rises from the depths. A monstrous devil kraken with countless tentacles and glowing eyes emerges to block their path. The monster holds a captive Reese in one of its appendages, her body limp as she struggles to stay conscious. Satoru screams her name. He instantly recognizes the beast from his past life, warning Messiah that this is the infamous devil kraken from the game. The monster lifts Reese above the water. She gasps for air, coughing and choking, her focus still on her friends. Even in the clutches of the beast, the brave elf warns her friends to be careful of the impending attack. In a flash, the Kraken's other tentacles whip through the air. The attack is impossibly fast. Satoru, Messiah, and Fortuna brace for impact as a terrifying wall of tentacles rushes toward them. Satoru stands his ground at the front, shouting that his auto skill can withstand the monster's relentless assault. His power activates. An invisible barrier deflects every single strike with a shower of bright sparks. He stands unmoving within a storm of attacks, his skill forming a perfect, impenetrable shield around himself and Messiah. Fortuna watches from a distance, her eyes wide with awe as she whispers how amazing his power truly is. Satoru grits his teeth, knowing his defense can't last forever. He realizes he must break through the endless tentacles and strike the monster's body. Seeing his struggle, Messiah casts her support magic, Orcus, bathing both Satoru and a surprised Fortuna in a wave of empowering light. Fortuna looks at her rival in confusion, wondering why this grim reaper would choose to share her power with her. A tiny bell on Messiah's cloak seems to hum with the lingering magical energy. Messiah offers Satoru a brilliant, encouraging smile, telling him to use this new strength to save Fortuna's precious person and end the fight quickly. Fortuna is stunned by Messiah's words, seeing her rival in a completely new and unexpected light for a brief moment. She pushes the feeling aside, declaring that while she refuses to listen to a reaper, she has no choice now but to use this power. With newfound resolve, Fortuna calls out to Satoru, signaling that she is ready to unleash her full strength. Feeling the surge of power, Satoru yells back, promising to create the opening she needs if she can just hold on a little longer. Fortuna stomps her foot on the water's surface, gathering a massive amount of energy for her attack. A tentacle whips toward her. It tries to stop her, but she shatters it with ease, her new strength far beyond what the monster expected. The Kraken's glowing eyes lock onto her as she prepares to unleash a secret and powerful fighting technique. Her eyes narrow. She focuses. Her target is locked. She leaps into the air and unleashes a devastating flying kick, the High King's soaring leg strike, aimed directly at the monster's head. The impact is explosive. A massive blast of force and water erupts from the point of contact. The colossal Kraken is sent flying backward, completely overwhelmed by the sheer power of her single attack. It collapses into the water, defeated and motionless. The battle is over. Satoru rushes to Fortuna and a freed Reese, his face filled with relief as he makes sure they are both unharmed. He tries to play it cool, remarking that the fight was easier than he thought, but Messiah teases him, pointing out that he was actually struggling quite a bit. She continues her playful jabs, reminding him that it was Fortuna's incredible power that truly won the day. Hearing this, Fortuna turns away, her cheeks blushing as she finds herself flustered by the unexpected praise. Satoru smiles, then turns to Reese, gently reminding her that their true mission, finding Fortuna's brother, is not over yet. The group shares a moment of relief and celebration, with Fortuna commenting on how surprisingly tough the little elf truly is. But it's not over. Something lunges from the fallen beast, a final desperate attack. Satoru's eyes widen in alarm. He senses the incoming threat. Messiah moves in a blur. She dashes in front of him, faster than he's ever seen her move. He hears his name called out as she becomes a shield, her focus absolute. She intercepts the attack head-on, creating a blinding flash of light as she takes the blow meant for him. With a powerful shove, she pushes him to safety, ensuring he remains unharmed. Fortuna and Reese watch, frozen in shock as the selfless act unfolds in an instant. Horror twists Satoru's face as he is thrown aside, realizing what she is doing. Messiah staggers forward, her body absorbing the full, devastating force of the Kraken's final strike. He reaches for her, his mind reeling. She just sacrificed herself for him. Her energy spent, Messiah collapses to the floor, unconscious. Satoru screams her name, his voice raw with anguish and terror. A new chapter begins, centered around a bright, happy memory of Messiah reaching out her hand, a painful contrast to her dark reality. Back in the present, Satoru desperately runs toward her fallen body, shouting her name as Fortuna and Reese watch in stunned silence. He kneels beside her, his heart stopping as he sees her pale, lifeless face. His mind races with panic and confusion, realizing his auto skill failed and questioning why she would sacrifice herself to protect him. Guilt floods his senses as his hand hovers over her still form. He blames his own carelessness for what happened, terrified that she might never wake up. He gently cradles her in his arms, calling her name again, his voice trembling with a grief he hasn't felt since he lost his friend. From the defeated monster, a new threat rises. A sinister, shadowy figure with glowing eyes emerges, the true Buster Devil Kraken. Suddenly, a powerful blast of energy slams into the new creature. From the shadows, a focused eye watches as the attack streaks through the air. The beam of pure energy obliterates the monster, causing a massive explosion that sends water spraying across the hall. The mysterious savior remains perfectly calm, their gaze steady. They don't even flinch as their overwhelming power erases the threat completely. Satoru looks up from Messiah's side to see a stranger standing before them, the one who just saved all their lives. The figure is a young man with light hair and glasses, his presence exuding a quiet confidence. Satoru stares in utter confusion, wondering who this person could possibly be. The mysterious attack has left a gaping hole through the monster's remains. As the creature dissolves into nothing, the stranger stands calmly over its defeat, leaving Satoru to wonder if he was their true rescuer. The young man turns around with a confident smile, casually asking if everyone is all right. Satoru can only stare back, still holding Messiah, his mind struggling to process the chaotic turn of events. "Brother!" Fortuna suddenly cries. "Out!" Her voice filled with pure, unadulterated relief as she runs towards the stranger. Reese's eyes go wide. She finally understands. This must be Mictron. Fortuna throws her arms around her brother in a tight embrace, overjoyed to see him safe. Mictron smiles, happy to see his sister as well. He gently asks her why she came to such a dangerous place, and she tearfully explains that she was looking for him. But her joy is quickly replaced by the urgent memory of their fallen friend. She pulls away, gesturing for her brother to hurry over to Messiah and Satoru. Fortuna begs him to heal Messiah, and Mictron immediately begins to cast a powerful, glorious heal spell, his hands glowing with a warm, life-giving light. Satoru watches the magic flow, his face tight with a desperate, silent hope. The whole group gathers around, their collective breath held as they watch Messiah's pale complexion slowly return to normal. Mictron explains that she just needs rest to fully recover, and a wave of profound relief washes over Satoru as he thanks him. Satoru looks at Mictron with a new sense of awe, amazed that this one man possesses both overwhelming destructive power and incredible healing skills. Mictron gives Satoru a sharp, analytical look, as if trying to size him up and understand the stranger who is traveling with his sister. Suddenly, he gets right in Satoru's face, aggressively demanding to know exactly who he is. Satoru stammers, trying to downplay his own importance by explaining that he is just an ordinary person surrounded by extraordinary companions. Mictron's intense gaze softens into one of realization, as he asks if Satoru is the prophesied savior his sister has been searching for. Later, Satoru sheepishly asks Fortuna to just call him by his name, admitting that the title of savior makes him feel awkward. Fortuna proudly tells her brother that Satoru is a true hero who came all this way simply because he cannot stand to see people in trouble. She looks at Satoru with shining, expectant eyes, waiting for him to confirm her heroic description of him. He sweats under the pressure, insisting that she is giving him far too much credit. Mictron watches them, a look of shock on his face as he mutters that the two of them seem to have grown surprisingly close. He then makes a wild, teasing suggestion about a duel for their wedding, causing Satoru and Fortuna to erupt in panicked denial. Reese, however, is absolutely loving the drama, her eyes sparkling with hearts as she excitedly whispers about a potential love triangle. Just then, Messiah stirs, a soft sound escaping her lips as she begins to wake. She sits up, dazed and confused, asking why she is on the floor. Reese's imagination goes into overdrive, wondering if this now makes it a love quadrangle, as Satoru frantically denies being a cheater. Messiah just stares at the chaotic scene around her, completely and utterly lost. The moment of chaos fades into a quiet, peaceful landscape, granting the heroes a brief respite. That night, the group gathers in a lively tavern in Frisia to rest and finally get some answers. The tavern's sign glows warmly, promising a place of comfort and conversation. Inside, a recovered Messiah holds a drink and addresses Mictron directly, confirming that he was the one who healed her and had been investigating the ruins. He confirms her words, and she thanks him sincerely for saving her life. Satoru leans in, his expression serious as he asks the most important question of all. Did Mictran find any clues about the curse of death? Mictran's tone becomes grave as he explains that the ruins were built to manage the Reaper's power, and that the world's balance between life and death is now collapsing. The group listens in stunned silence, with Messiah asking what it truly means to manage the Reaper's power. He delivers the grim truth. The growing curse is causing monsters to evolve and is slowly transforming goddesses like Messiah into Reapers. The weight of his words hangs heavy in the air, but just as quickly, Mictran's serious demeanor vanishes, replaced by the giddy excitement of a scholar as he proudly presents an ancient stone tablet he discovered. He excitedly explains that the tablet contains the secrets of the Reaper management mechanism, getting completely lost in his passion for ancient history. Fortuna sighs with fond embarrassment, explaining to the others that her brother is a history nerd who easily gets distracted by his interests. Satoru's attention shifts, his expression changing as he notices something is wrong. He watches Messiah quietly excuse herself from the table, saying she'll be right back. Standing at the door, she explains that she needs to get some fresh air, admitting that she doesn't quite feel like herself. Satoru and Fortuna share a look of deep concern as they watch her leave the tavern alone. Fortuna turns to Satoru, her voice low and urgent. With a worried look, she asks him to please go and check on Messiah. She confesses that she now realizes Messiah is not a bad person and understands how much she must be struggling with the terrifying transformation she is undergoing. Looking out into the night, Fortuna wonders if Messiah is just another innocent victim of the world's terrible curse. Satoru takes her words to heart and steps outside into the cool night air. He follows Messiah into a quiet, moonlit forest, finding her standing alone. She turns to him as he approaches, her figure illuminated by the starry sky, looking both beautiful and profoundly sad. He offers her a small, gentle smile, trying to bring her some comfort. Messiah quietly remarks that he was standing in the same way the day they first met. She looks away, her voice filled with regret as she admits that back then she had no idea she was already beginning to turn into a Reaper. She describes the horrifying sensation, a deep, empty coldness that spreads through her chest whenever she feels the powerful urge to protect someone. Her eyes grow dark and hollow as she finally accepts the terrifying truth of what it means to become a Reaper. Satoru listens in silence, his heart aching with empathy for her lonely struggle. She looks so fragile, lost in the shadow of her impending fate. Satoru finally speaks, telling her there is something he needs to say, even if it might not be the right thing. He tries to break the tension with a light-hearted jab, teasing that she never really had a goddess vibe to begin with, earning an annoyed glare from her. He continues his playful teasing, pointing out that she's bossy and lacks the usual sparkly aura of a goddess, making her huff in frustration. For a moment, she looks genuinely hurt by his blunt assessment, but then Satoru's expression softens into one of pure sincerity. He tells her that to him, the Messiah who saved him from his despair was the greatest goddess he could have ever imagined. Tears stream down her face, her heart overwhelmed by his kindness as he declares that in that moment, she was truly a goddess to him. She looks down, blushing and speechless, completely disarmed by his heartfelt words. Wiping her tears, she tells him that protecting him is only natural, because as the one destined to save the world, he is not allowed to die. She begins to tell him her story, revealing that before meeting him, she lived in the celestial realm. A memory surfaces of a grand hall where she and other goddesses served under Fortune, one of the three creator gods. She remembers her friend Irina whispering a frightening rumor about a goddess who could transform into a Reaper. Though Messiah dismissed it as a myth at the time, Irina insisted that losing control of one's power could lead to being cast down to the lower world. They tried to laugh it off, joking about what a Reaper might look like, but the fear lingered. The fear became reality for one of their friends, who looked pale and sick as she admitted that she too once thought it was only a rumor. Messiah remembers looking at her friend with a growing sense of dread. She had asked her if she was all right, noticing how strange she had been acting lately. Her friend tried to deny it, but it was clear that something was terribly wrong. A few weeks later, a dark, terrifying power erupted from their friend. Before their horrified eyes, she twisted into a skeletal Reaper and was sealed away by the god Fortune, a traumatic event that scarred Messiah forever. Messiah explains that after witnessing this tragedy, Fortune gave her a sacred mission to guide the Savior and stop this from ever happening again. She confesses that while she is terrified of suffering the same fate, her greatest fear is seeing another goddess go through what she is experiencing. Satoru listens, his expression full of understanding. He tells her he knows that feeling all too well, remembering the vow he made after losing his friend Yamada. He clenches his fist, his voice ringing with a new and powerful resolve, declaring that if helping the person right in front of him is what it takes to save the world, then I will, he finishes, his determination absolute. He will protect Messiah, no matter the cost. Satoru looks Messiah in the eyes, his voice steady and full of conviction as he tells her that he believes in her. He gives her a gentle smile, acknowledging that they are kindred spirits, both carrying the deep pain of having lost someone they cared for. Her eyes sparkle with unshed tears, his words touching her heart and making her feel for the first time truly understood. They sit together in the quiet night, but she is still plagued by doubt, asking if it is truly okay for him to place so much faith in her. She voices her deepest fear. If she becomes a reaper, she might lose control and become a danger to him instead of a protector. His gaze remains unwavering, a silent promise of his trust. He sits beside her, his voice full of empathy as he apologizes for the painful burden she has been forced to carry all this time. He then tries to lighten the mood, proudly announcing that his level has skyrocketed to 700 and vowing that he will never be so careless again. A small, genuine smile finally returns to her face as she softly agrees. Her playful nature resurfaces as she teases him, warning him not to hate her if she does become a reaper, and pushes him off a cliff, ruining his cool moment. Back in the tavern, Fortuna urgently questions her brother about the secrets he has uncovered from the ancient stone tablet. Mictron confirms her hopes are true, explaining that he understood everything after deciphering the tablet's ancient text. He then delivers the best news of all, revealing with a confident smile that he has discovered the path to saving their world from the curse of death. In the clearing, Satoru makes his final decision, telling Messiah with absolute certainty that it doesn't matter what she becomes. He wants her to be the one to lead him. A memory from the celestial realm shows the great god Fortune explaining the sacred saints' festival, where a new saint is chosen through a series of trials. Fortune gravely states that only a saint can oppose a reaper, and with their friend Irina lost to the curse, they must find a new candidate immediately. She reveals the tool for their search, the goddess's reincarnation book, an artifact used to summon a worthy soul. A younger Messiah listens with rapt attention, her duty clear. She wonders what kind of person the book will choose. What soul could possibly have the potential to become a saint? The book reveals its choice, a lazy young man named Satoru, fast asleep in his messy room, much to the other goddesses' shock. They protest loudly, unable to believe that someone who just plays on his phone all day could possibly be their chosen one. Fortune calmly explains that he carries a deep and powerful karma, which only makes the other goddesses joke about his karma of laziness. The great god looks over at Messiah, her choice of guide already made. A magical staff is presented, a tool that will allow Messiah to peer into the chosen one's very soul. Messiah's eye reflects the vision she is about to receive, a glimpse into the heart of their potential savior. In that moment, the painful memories of Satoru's past life, his grief, his regret, his despair, flow directly into her mind. Messiah stands silently, absorbing the vision and feeling his pain as her own. She sees the kind, smiling face of his lost friend, Yamada. She witnesses their time together in a strange office, a world completely alien to her. She sees Satoru hard at work, dedicated and focused, and then she sees the tragedy. Yamada collapsing from overwork, his life slipping away. She feels the crushing weight of Satoru's grief, the terrible burden of regret that has defined his life ever since. Tears stream down Messiah's face as she finally understands the deep karma he carries, not of laziness, but of loss. Fortune watches her with a gentle, knowing smile, having seen the profound empathy in Messiah's heart. The great god gives Messiah her sacred mission, telling her to lead him, confident that she is the only one who can. Fortune's final words of encouragement echo, stating her belief that Messiah can guide him well. Back in the present, a new chapter begins with the group enjoying a day of sightseeing in Frisia, their spirits high as they prepare for what's to come. Colorful banners hang throughout the city, celebrating the upcoming Saints' Festival. The streets are alive with excitement as the townspeople eagerly await the grand event. The party arrives at Fortuna and Mictron's home, ready to discuss their next move. They gather inside a vast library, where the full weight of Satoru's destiny is about to be revealed. Satoru pieces together the unbelievable truth. He was summoned to this world to become a saint and save it from destruction. While Mictron confirms this is true, Reese is left completely bewildered by the revelation that Satoru was summoned from another world. The pressure is too much. Satoru throws his hands up, shouting that he could never accept such a massive responsibility. He complains that just a short time ago he was a normal guy enjoying his games, and he never asked to be a hero. He admits that it's all too much to process at once, his mind reeling from the incredible stakes. Messiah and Fortuna immediately begin to argue about his training, with Messiah advocating for a slow, steady approach while Fortuna insists they are out of time. Reese interrupts their bickering, her eyes sparkling as she reminds them what a huge honor it is to even participate in the Saints' festival. But her excitement quickly fades as she compares their grand destinies to her own sad fate as an outcast, and Satoru awkwardly tries to comfort her. Mictron adds that Satoru must have a natural talent for it, as the path to sainthood is not open to just anyone. His tone then turns grave as he explains that his research has revealed a critical truth. The entire world is on the brink of disaster. He warns them that in just a few years the ancient ruins will fail, causing monsters everywhere to become frenzied and violent. And worst of all, he reveals, every goddess in the world will likely transform into a reaper, a fate that hangs heavy over Messiah. Satoru listens, the color draining from his face as he finally understands the true scope of the catastrophe they face. He is overwhelmed by the pressure, realizing that the fate of this world, and Messiah, now rests entirely on his shoulders. Fortuna cuts through the despair, asking if he found a way to save them. Satoru looks up with a flicker of desperate hope, asking if it's really true. Mictron confirms that their salvation lies within the upcoming Saints' Festival. He leads them to a closed wooden door at the back of the library, the reason for their desperate quest waiting just beyond it. With a sad smile, he opens the door, revealing a heartbreaking sight. Satoru freezes, completely shocked by what he sees. His eyes widen as he takes in the tragic scene within the room. Two figures, a man and a woman, lie in separate beds, trapped in a death-like sleep by the curse of death. Their bodies are still, their minds lost to the curse that robs its victims of their will to live. Satoru, Reese, and Messiah can only stare, their hearts aching for their friend's suffering. Fortuna's face is a mask of grief, her resolve hardening as she looks upon her parents. She confirms to the group that these are her and Mictron's parents. She explains that they have been in this state for nearly a year, kept alive only by her brother's powerful healing magic. But even with his help, she knows in her heart that they do not have much time left. Reese and Messiah look on with deep sympathy, now understanding the true, personal stakes of Fortuna's mission. Mictron turns to Satoru, his expression deadly serious. He reveals what he learned from the ancient tablet. To break the curse, Satoru must defeat 3 incredibly powerful enemies, but he delivers a crushing blow, stating that at Satoru's current level, such a feat is completely impossible. The hope in Satoru's eyes is extinguished, replaced by a deep despair as he confronts his own weakness. He looks down, feeling utterly powerless to help them. But then, his despair hardens into resolve. He clenches his fist, knowing that he must get stronger, and the Saints' Festival is his only path. He stands tall, his voice filled with newfound determination as he declares that he will become a saint. A proud smile spreads across Mictron's face as he tells Satoru that when he succeeds, he will finally become the true savior. Fortuna is overjoyed by his decision, eagerly announcing that it's time to begin his special training immediately. Reese chimes in, suggesting that they could train near her old elf village, since the festival is still a month away. Fortuna agrees, adding that the area is known as a popular training ground for powerful warriors. "Wait!" Messiah shouts, her voice cutting through their excited plans. Everyone turns to her, surprised by her sudden and forceful objection. She argues passionately that if he is not strong enough, he must level up slowly and safely, not rush headfirst into a dangerous training ground. Reese and Fortuna look at her, confused by her sudden caution. Reese looks genuinely worried, not understanding Messiah's hesitation. She gently reminds Messiah that if they waste time, it will be too late to save Fortuna's family. Fortuna confronts Messiah directly, her voice strained as she argues that people are suffering right now, and they cannot afford to be slow. Satoru tries to calm the situation, calling out Messiah's name softly, but Messiah's emotions erupt. She screams that her only goal is to prevent Satoru from ever having to feel the pain of losing someone again. A sharp clap echoes through the room, instantly silencing the argument. The three of them turn, surprised, toward the sound. Mictron stands there, his hands pressed together in a calming gesture. He smiles, telling them all to calm down before their argument gets out of hand. Looking at Satoru, he proposes a simple solution, a trial to gauge his true strength and settle the debate once and for all. The scene shifts to a massive, ancient coliseum on the outskirts of the city. A lonely wind blows dust and leaves across the empty arena floor. Satoru and Mictron stand facing each other, ready to begin their test of strength. Satoru looks around in awe, amazed by the sheer scale of the ancient structure. From the stands, Fortuna explains that this is the sacred ground where new saints are officially recognized, the perfect stage to test the future savior. Messiah stares down at the arena, the 10-year wait for a new saint weighing heavily on her mind. She whispers her true intention, revealing that she wanted to use those 10 years to carefully guide Satoru to sainthood, ensuring his safety above all else. Down below, Mictron confronts Satoru, confirming that he knows Satoru is not from this world. He then poses a difficult question, asking what personal benefit Satoru could possibly gain from risking his life to save a world that isn't his own. But before Satoru can answer, Fortuna's impatient voice cuts through the air. She tells them to stop talking and get ready, officially beginning the trial. Mictron's expression turns deadly serious. "Begin!" he shouts, his friendly demeanor gone. Satoru looks nervous but determined, bracing himself for the fight to come. Mictron moves with blinding speed. He crosses the arena in an instant, and Satoru can only marvel at his incredible swiftness. Satoru's training kicks in. He instantly activates his Purgatory auto skill, a fiery aura flaring up to defend him. From the stands, Messiah watches in tense silence, her hands clenched in worry. Reese frets that Satoru will get hurt just defending himself, while Fortuna grimly notes that her brother's holy magic is merciless. Mictron unleashes a furious storm of magical attacks, showing Satoru no mercy. Satoru is pushed back, his skill working tirelessly to block a constant barrage of powerful explosions. He grits his teeth, realizing he is completely outmatched. His attacks are easily dodged, and his defense is barely holding. He stares in disbelief, wondering how anyone can possess such an endless well of power. Mictron looks down on him with cold disappointment, thinking that he can never entrust his sister's safety to someone this weak. The girls in the stands try to lighten the mood, teasing Fortuna and Mictron about their protective sibling bond. Mictron fires another blast. Satoru dives just in time, the ground exploding where he just stood. Mictron taunts him, claiming that if he is only here because a goddess told him to be, he lacks the will of a true hero. A follow-up attack hits Satoru directly, sending him flying across the arena. "Satoru!" Messiah cries out, watching in horror as he takes the devastating blow. With a cold, challenging look, Mictron suggests that if he plans on quitting, now is the time. He then unleashes a massive wave of destructive energy that threatens to consume the entire arena. The world explodes in smoke and fire, leaving Satoru with absolutely nowhere to escape. The smoke clears to reveal Satoru on his hands and knees, beaten and exhausted, admitting that he doesn't stand a chance. Mictron stands over him, the undisputed victor of their one-sided battle. Satoru looks down, forced to accept his overwhelming defeat. He thinks about how out of place he feels, always left behind while his powerful companions discuss matters he doesn't understand. Mictron's expression softens with a hint of sympathy, acknowledging how difficult this must all be for him. Satoru can only agree, the full weight of his impossible situation crashing down on him. He reflects on how he was summoned against his will, declared the savior, and told to simply follow along. He feels like a pawn, swept along by a fate he never chose. But then, he remembers his past fights. He realizes that even though he didn't choose this path, the decision to stand and fight has always been his own. He thinks of Reese, who, despite her limitations, always strives to be useful to her friends. He thinks of Fortuna, who is so strong and reliable, and who trusted him with her family's fate. And he thinks of Messiah, who has been by his side from the very beginning, always there to help him. He sits up, bruised but resolute, recognizing Messiah for what she truly is, a kind-hearted goddess who always puts others before herself. Mictron asks if he still wants to continue, telling him it would be better to accept his own weakness. Fortuna gasps, yelling at her brother for his cruel words. Satoru considers the massive, abstract idea of saving the world, but his eyes burn with a new personal fire. He shouts that if this is the world his friends live in, then he will save it. He remembers the people of Jarvis, the smiles on their faces. He knows now that if he can help even one person, "I will!" he roars, his voice echoing with a purpose born not of prophecy, but of his own heart. An incredible surge of golden magic erupts from his body, shaking the very foundations of the Colosseum. Mictron stares in utter disbelief, wondering what this immense, untapped power could possibly be. "I'll become a saint, or whatever it takes," Satoru screams, his determination manifesting as raw, untamed energy. The wave of power explodes outward from him. The force is so great that it pushes even the mighty Mictron back. The ancient stone floor of the arena cracks and shatters beneath the weight of his awakened potential. Mictron shields himself, his clothes torn by the sheer force of the blast. He stares at Satoru, completely stunned, stammering as he asks what that incredible attack was. From the stands, Messiah and Reese are overjoyed, with Messiah shouting his name in pure, amazed pride. She rushes onto the field, excitedly asking about the new skill he just unlocked, earning a light-hearted scolding from Satoru for her recklessness. She pumps her fist, telling him that he's actually really cool sometimes. He tries to play it cool, asking what she means by sometimes, as if he's not always cool. Messiah covers her mouth to stifle a laugh, playfully agreeing with him. Then, with tears of genuine happiness in her eyes, she tells him that he is always cool, and she truly likes that about him. Satoru is left completely speechless, his face flushing bright red at her sincere and unexpected praise. A small hair antenna on Reese's head suddenly springs to life. She lets out a knowing, "Oh, ho," sensing the romantic tension in the air. She teases them, announcing that her antenna is detecting the scent of love, much to Satoru's embarrassment. From the side, Fortuna simply admits that she is surprised. Mictron approaches, a look of respect on his face as he apologizes for testing Satoru so harshly, admitting he never expected such an incredible display of power. Satoru just grins, admitting that he doesn't even know the name of the new skill himself. Fortuna stands proudly beside her brother, telling him that she was right all along. Satoru is destined to be the savior. Mictron looks at Satoru with a new understanding and respect. "But more than that," he begins, his tone softening. He tells Satoru that he saw not a savior of prophecy, but a true young man with the heart and will to protect those he cares about. After the trial, the group walks back to the city, their path forward now united and clear. A new plan is put into motion. A constant, gentle light of healing now surrounds Mictron and Fortuna's sleeping parents. Satoru and Mictron stand over them, their powers combined to create a continuous miracle. Mictron observes the results, a thoughtful and pleased expression on his face. He explains that by combining Satoru's auto skill with his own healing magic, they have activated a constant auto-cure. This temporary solution means his parents will continue to recover even while he and Satoru are away training for the festival. Mictron thanks Satoru sincerely, acknowledging what a huge help this will be for his family. Messiah approaches Satoru, a hint of worry still lingering in her eyes as she confirms his decision to participate in the festival. He smiles reassuringly, promising to undergo special training to get much stronger so she won't have to worry, and she reluctantly agrees. With their plan set, a book of maps is opened, charting the course for their training journey. The entire party gathers around, their next destination decided. Reese is bouncing with excitement, thrilled that her unique knowledge will finally be useful for helping her friends level up. She proudly offers to guide them to her former home, the legendary elf village of Avalon. A new chapter begins as Reese looks out the window of a carriage, excitedly pointing out that Avalon is finally in sight. The view reveals a beautiful, peaceful landscape of lush forests and towering mountains. The party arrives with Reese explaining that Mictron stayed behind to continue his vital research. But Satoru and Fortuna are confused. They are standing in an ordinary forest, not the grand village they were expecting. Reese looks away, a hint of awkwardness on her face. She uses a special elven skill, causing the dense trees to part and reveal a hidden path forward. Satoru looks on, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Fortuna explains the sad truth. As an exile, Reese is forbidden from entering Avalon itself, so they must train in the forest outside its walls. Reese quickly tries to brush off her sadness, flustered by the attention. She explains that this forest is teeming with powerful monsters, making it a secret and ideal training ground for elves. Satoru smiles, reassuring her that their plan was always to train in the forest anyway, so everything is fine. Fortuna watches the two of them, a thoughtful expression on her face. She turns to Reese with genuine concern, asking if she is truly okay being so close to the home that cast her out. She gently asks if Reese doesn't feel the urge to see her family, a question that makes Reese's heart ache. Fortuna tells her that she might regret not seeing them while she still has the chance. Before Reese can answer, a terrified scream for help echoes from deep within the forest. The scream grows louder, closer, filled with desperation. An elven girl bursts into the clearing, running for her life from two snarling goblins. Without hesitation, Satoru plants his feet, ready to intervene and protect the fleeing elf. His expression is focused and alert, a stark contrast to the terror on the girl's face. One of the goblins lunges, its jagged teeth and sharp claws aimed to kill. The elf girl squeezes her eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable pain. But Satoru is faster. His auto skill, Hidden Crevice, activates with a calm command. A shadowy void opens in the earth directly in the path of the charging goblins. The monsters are swallowed by the darkness in an instant, and the ground seals over as if nothing happened, leaving the elf girl stunned but safe. Satoru and Messiah rush to her side, Satoru asking if she is all right. The elf looks up at him in awe, amazed by his strength, and explains she was trying to level up on her own when she was ambushed. He asks if she is an elf from Avalon, just like their friend Reese. At the mention of the name, the elf girl's expression changes to one of confused recognition. From behind Satoru, Reese steps into view, her familiar staff in hand. The elf girl's breath hitches, her eyes widening in disbelief. A massive, joyful smile breaks across her face as tears of happiness stream down her cheeks. She cries out Reese's name, overjoyed, but Reese just stares back, her face a blank mask of confusion. She has no idea who this is. Messiah and Fortuna smile warmly, assuming this is a touching reunion between old friends. Reese stammers, her face flushing with embarrassment and confusion. She bows her head deeply, apologizing and admitting that she doesn't recognize the girl, shocking everyone. The girl is crushed, crying out that Reese has forgotten her, while Reese panics, trying to list the friends she does remember. She names Lukulu, Meaty, and Ryan, but Satoru has never heard these names before. The elf girl quickly explains that it's not Reese's fault she doesn't remember. With a sad smile, she reveals a shocking truth that explains everything. She used to be a boy. Reese's eyes go wide, her mind struggling to comprehend the impossible statement. The entire group stares back, their expressions a perfect mixture of shock and utter disbelief. Satoru's brain short-circuits, trying to process what he just heard. He looks up at the sky as if asking for an explanation, completely lost. The group sits down together as the elf girl, now a stranger to her own friend, begins to tell her unbelievable story. She properly introduces herself as Lukulu, Reese's childhood friend. Reese is still reeling from the shock, unable to believe what she is hearing. "Seriously?" she asks, her voice trembling. Lukulu nods sadly, admitting that she understands her friend's doubt. Satoru gently asks what could have possibly happened to cause such a change. Lukulu delivers another bombshell, explaining that she isn't the only one. The entire village of Avalon has been gender-swapped. Her expression turns to one of cold fury as she reveals that a tyrannical elf named Pora is now in control of their home. Satoru doesn't recognize the name, and Reese looks equally clueless about who this Pora could be. Lukulu looks down, her face grim as she prepares to recount the tragic events. Her story begins 3 months ago, when a mysterious elf named Pora first arrived at their village. A memory shows a dark-haired Pora, who had lost her home and was seeking refuge in Avalon. She had begged the village chief to grant her sanctuary, promising she would do anything to earn her keep. Out of sympathy, the kind-hearted elves welcomed her with open arms. a memory that Reese recalls with a tinge of sadness. In return, Pura used her incredible magical abilities to share her knowledge of healing herbs and spells, quickly earning the villagers' trust. Reese continues the story, explaining that Pura eventually began working in the palace for the village chief, Belladonna. Reese realizes what this implies. Satoru connects the dots, understanding that Pura was working directly under Reese's own father. He is stunned to learn that the timid elf he knows is actually the daughter of the village chief. Lukulu continues, her voice low and somber. And then, an incident occurred. A dark shadow falls over the once peaceful memory of Avalon. Pura betrayed their trust, using her overwhelming power to seize control of the palace and cast a spell that swapped everyone's gender, plunging the village into chaos. She reveals that the village chief, Reese's father, is now being held captive in a dungeon. Reese gasps, her hand flying to her mouth in utter horror. Fortuna and Messiah are equally appalled, unable to believe such a cruel and bizarre tragedy could have happened. Lukulu rushes forward, her body trembling with desperation. She bows deeply before the group. "I know this is sudden and confusing," she pleads, "but please, save Avalon." She admits she has been trying to get strong enough on her own, but with Satoru's power, she believes they finally have a chance. Satoru's eyes narrow with determination. There is no question of what he must do. "Of course," he agrees without a moment's hesitation, while Messiah smiles, having known he would. Fortuna turns to Reese with a warm, supportive smile, telling her they must go and rescue her father immediately. But Reese remains silent, her body frozen in place. Tears well up in her eyes as she whispers a hesitant, quiet word. Looking at her friends, she says something that shocks them all. She must refuse their help. A somber quiet falls over the forest, mirroring the mood of the group. Later, Messiah and Fortuna express their confusion, wondering why Reese would abandon her own father and village. Satoru explains that Reese has gone to talk with Lukulu alone, but he admits he is deeply worried about her. Reese stands alone in the woods, her back turned to her friend, unable to look her in the eye. A painful memory returns, the moment her father told her she was being exiled from her home. She remembers begging him to tell her why, her heart breaking. Her father's cold voice echoes in her mind, telling her that as a magicless elf, she is a disgrace to his family and his position as chief. She recalls the endless years of failed training, the humiliation of being unable to perform even the simplest spell. His final, cruel words ring in her ears. "You are no longer my daughter." She remembers leaving Avalon, cast out and utterly alone. The road she walked was filled with loneliness and despair. She thinks about how hard she tried, how much effort she put in, only for it to end in such a cruel way. She loved her village and her father so much, but his rejection made it all feel like a lie. Back in the present, she tells Lukulu that she is sorry, but she made a vow that day. She promised herself that she would never involve herself with the village or her father ever again. Lukulu looks down with deep regret, apologizing for not being there to help her friend when she needed it most. She takes Reese's hands, telling her that despite everything, she is so happy to see her again. Lukulu pulls her into a tight hug, promising that she will find a way to save the village so Reese doesn't have to break her vow. She whispers a prayer for her friend's journey to be safe, her love and friendship unconditional. A familiar, warm feeling spreads through Reese's heart. It's a warmth she knows all too well. A cherished memory surfaces of a young Lukulu finding a young Reese crying after falling from a tree. He asks her what happened, his voice full of concern. She tearfully explains she fell, and he gently scolds her for trying to climb again so soon. She cries that she practices every single day, hoping to finally succeed where she always fails. She sobs that she feels useless because she's the only one who can't do what everyone else can. Young Lukulu watches his friend with a look of profound empathy. He takes her hand, telling her about a special magic spell his father taught him. He promises her that from now on, even if she falls 1,000 times, she will always be safe. He smiles and explains that his protection magic will always be there to guard her. The sweet memory fades like falling leaves in the wind. She remembers her father calling for her, telling her it was time to go home. That night, Reese wakes up from a nightmare, crying out her father's name. She stares up at the unfamiliar ceiling of the inn. A single, lonely tear traces a path down her cheek. She sits up in her bed, alone in the dark room. Her new cloak, a symbol of her journey, hangs by the window. She knows that Satoru and his friends are strong enough to defeat Pura, but she decides she cannot ask them, unwilling to burden them with her problems while they are busy with their own important training. She stands, her resolve hardening. Though she hasn't forgiven her father, she cannot abandon the people of her village. With a look of fierce determination, she decides she will go to Lukulu's side, even if she must face the danger all by herself. But as she steps out into the night, she finds Satoru and Fortuna waiting. Satoru smiles, telling her he knew she would come. Messiah appears from the shadows, playfully complaining that she was tired of waiting for her. Reese is stunned, completely surprised to see them all there waiting for her. Satoru just grins, nonchalantly saying they were just out for a little night stroll. With a mischievous and determined look in his eye, he declares their true plan. It's time to pay a visit to Pura's house.